Shabbat Shalom. I'm recording this on November 11th, 2020. I mention the recording date because if something happens between now and Friday, you'll understand why it's not included in the service. November 9th was the 82nd anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass. We're dealing with a contested presidential election, the rise of coronavirus incidents, the governor putting more restrictions on us because of it. Warren Stone, the retired rabbi of Temple Emmanuel in Kensington, Maryland, used to say, let's leave the week behind and walk through the gate of Shabbat. And if there was ever a week that was suitable for that kind of expression of leaving the world behind, this is the week. On the other hand, today is the 102nd anniversary of Armistice Day, which effectively ended the First World War. So we will be celebrating our veterans. And now, to set the mood for Shabbat, Teddy Kaplan will play for us. Thank you, Teddy. We'll turn to page 84, which is the first page of your handout, where we sing a song about our ministering angels. We say to them, peace upon you, shalom aleichem. We ask them to come to us in peace, bo'achem l'shalom. We ask them to bless us in peace, barchuni l'shalom, and when Shabbat is over, to leave in peace, zeitchem l'shalom, to return to us in peace on the next Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeidchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's turn to page 38. Source of mercy, continue your loving care for us and our loved ones. Give us strength to walk in your presence on the paths of the righteous, loyal to your Torah, steadfast in goodness. And let's read together. Keep us far from all shame, grief, and anguish. Fill our homes with peace, light, and joy. O God, fountain of life, by your light shall we see light. And Amy Greenwood will now light the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher qidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us by thy laws and commanded us to kindle the Sabbath lights. Amen.
May we be blessed with Shabbat joy. Amen. May we be blessed with Shabbat peace. Amen. May we be blessed with Shabbat light. Amen. We will continue on page 39. Normally I'd say let's read responsively, but since you're on your homes and I am in mine, if you feel like reading entirely along with me, that's perfectly all right. Page 39, Psalm 95, and I'll do a little bit of chanting to get us in the mood. Lechu niranena, L'Adonai Nariya, Litzor Yishenu. Come, let us sing to the Eternal One. Let our song ring out to our sheltering rock. Let us come before God with thanksgiving, our voices loud with song. For great are you, Eternal One, high above the gods that are worshipped. In your hands are the depths of the earth. Yours are the mountain peaks. You made the sea. It is yours. The dry land is the work of your hands. You are our God and our shepherd. We are your people and your flock. If only today we would listen to your voice. Let's jump ahead to page 46, our love song to the Shabbat bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala, come my beloved to greet the bride. Penei Shabbat nekabala, the face of Sabbath we will receive. Page 46. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishme'anu el ha'miuchad, Adonai echad, U'shemaho echad, L'shem al tiferet v'lid hilah, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Likrat Shabbat lechuvan elcha, Ki mikor ha'bracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva hore kumi ori, uri, uri, shirda beri, kavod Adonai alayich nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. And if you wish, you can stand and face the door and imagine yourselves welcoming the Shabbat bride who is entering in all her refinery. For after all, in a Kabbalat Shabbat service, we are guests at her wedding. Or if you prefer to remain seated, that is perfectly all right. I will be facing my door this way. Boi v'shalom hateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha uvtzola, toch emuneh Am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen, if you are standing. I'm going to continue on page 48 with Psalm 93. In English. If you wish, please join me. The Eternal One is enthroned, robed in grandeur. The Eternal One is robed, girded with strength. The one who founded the solid earth to be unmoving. Ageless is your throne, endless your being. The oceans cry out, Eternal God. The oceans cry out their thunder. The oceans rage in their fury. But greater than the thunder of the torrents, mightier than the breakers of the sea, is the majesty of God on high. Your law stands firm, and in your temple, O eternal God, holiness abides till the end of time. We will conclude our Kabbalat Shabbat section of our service with our separator prayer, the Chatzi Kaddish on page 49. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei, be'amelich malchutei, Bechayechon uv'yomechon ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבו מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך, יתברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה, ברכו לעילא מן כל בחרתה ושירתה, תשבחתה בנחמתה, דמירון בימה, ויאמרו Amen. If you're so inclined, please rise for the Baruch Hu, the beginning of our Mariv service. It's on page 50. Or as the rabbis teach us, we can stand in our hearts. You can remain seated if that is more comfortable for you. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Eved. Let's read the English together on the bottom of page 50 to the top of page 51. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening. With wisdom you open heaven's gates, and with understanding you make the ages pass and the seasons alternate. Your will controls the stars as they travel through the skies. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You cause day to pass and bring on the night, separating day from night. You command the hosts of heaven. May the living and eternal God rule us always to the end of time. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening fall. Please join me on Ahavat Olam, the Revelation, on page 51. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Avta. Torah mitzvot chukim mishpatim otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbeinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha leolam voed. Ki heim chayenu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem nege yomav v'layla avtecha tasir mimenu le'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Or Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Avoed. If you are standing, please be seated for the Ve'ahavta. On page 52. I think this week I'm going to do it in English. I hope you don't mind. And please join me. You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God. We'll continue with the redemption on page 53. And again, please read along with me. All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone are God. There is none else, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign. You deliver us from the hand of oppressors and save us from the fist of tyrants. You do wonders without number, marvels that pass our understanding. You give us our life. By your help, we survive all who seek our destruction. You did wonders for us in the land of Egypt, miracles and marvels in the land of Pharaoh. You led your people Israel out forever to serve you in freedom. When your children witnessed your power, they extolled you and gave you thanks. Willingly they enthroned you, and full of joy, Moses and Miriam In fact, all of Israel sang this song. Mi chamocha po'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, o seifele, Nora tehilot, o seifele, Malchutecha ra'uvanecha, Vokei hayam lifnei Moshe, Zeli anu v'yamaru, Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, Leolam avo ebene marki for Adonai Yaakov, V'lo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Goa Yisrael. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you among the gods, Adonai? And the answer is, there is none like you among the gods. We'll continue with our evening prayer. We'll do it in English on page 55. Grant that we may lie down in peace, eternal God, and raise us up, O Sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war and famine and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that now and always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Please join me on Vishamru on page 55. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berith olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam oti leolam Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berith olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-Shemaim ve'et ha'aretz Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berith olam Vayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berith olam. We're now about to enter that part of the service called tefillah, prayer, also called the Amidah, because Omed is to stand in Hebrew. It's the standing prayer. But to give us the right ruach for tefillah, Ellen Ollendorf will do a reading for us.
Okay, this is the prelude to the Amidah, and the poem is Untitled by James Agee. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns. And the round ocean and the living air and the blue sky and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of thought, and rolls through all things.
Our service continues on page 56 with the Amidah. If you are so inclined, please stand. On the other hand, it is all right to be seated. You can stand in your heart, as I already mentioned. Adonai sivotav tiftachu v'yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avod V'imahod, U'mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Abraham V'Ezrat Sarah. We'll continue with the second of our 7 benedictions on page 57. Please join me. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, Michaye hakol ata rav lehoshia, Michalkel chaim b'chesed, Michaye hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rufei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamo chabal gevurot umidom elach melech memid umekaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'nemanata lachayot hakol baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. We'll continue on page 58 with the third benediction. The holiness of God. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'cha yom yahalalucha selah, baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Let's read the English together. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who strive to be holy declare your glory day by day. We praise you, Eternal One, the holy God. If you are standing and you wish to be seated, you may do so, or if you wish to remain standing through the entire Amidah, that is perfectly all right. We will do the holiness of Shabbat. We'll begin with the bottom of page 59 and continue to the top of page 60. This is the fourth of our 7 benedictions. Our God, God of our fathers and our mothers, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our way of life. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal God, let your holy Sabbath remain our heritage, that all Israel, hallowing your name, may find rest and peace. We praise you, O God, for the Sabbath and its holiness. Our 5th benediction is called worship, avodah. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, b'amcha Yisrael, U'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel, U'tehili ratzon, Tamid avodah Yisrael, Amecha. El karov lechol korav, Penel avodecha v'chanenu, Shofach ruchacha aleinu, v'techezena einenu, v'shuvecha l'tzion barachamim, baruch atah Adonai hamachazir Shechinato Litzion, Litzion. Let's do it together in English. Be gracious, eternal God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. O may our worship always be acceptable to you. Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek you in truth. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst and in the midst of our people in Zion. We praise you, O God, whose presence gives life to Zion and all Israel. Our 6th benediction is a prayer of gratitude, of thanks to God. Modi manachnu lach she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu le'olam va'ed. I did the first line in Hebrew, but let's read it together in English, from the bottom of page 61 to the top of page 62. We gratefully acknowledge that you are our God and the God of our people, the God of all generations. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank you and sing your praises for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. You are goodness. Your mercies never end. You are compassion. Your love will never fail. You have always been our hope. For all these things, O sovereign God, let your name be forever exalted and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Eternal God, whose nature is goodness, we give you thanks and praise. And then we do our seventh and final benediction, a prayer for peace. Please join me. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata Melech Adon Lecho HaShalom. Ki ata Melech Adon Lecho HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'anecha livarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol edu v'chol sha'ah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Let's read in silent devotion from the bottom of page 63 to the top of 64. And if you have trouble reading the Hebrew, just go right to the English on 64. Haseh l'man Toratecha, l'man yalachat sunya didecha, v'hashi enu yaminecha, v'eineni, v'hashia yaminecha, v'eineni. O God, keep my tongue from evil and my lips from deceit. Help me to be silent in the face of derision, humble in the presence of all. Open my heart to your Torah, that I may hasten to do your mitzvot. Save me with your power. In time of trouble, be my answer to those who love you. O say shalom bimromav, hu shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'emeru amen. O say shalom bimromav, the one who makes peace from his high place. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, he will make peace upon us. Ve'al kol Yisrael, and over Jews everywhere. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, and over all who live on this earth. And we affirm by saying, Amen. And while we are still in a prayerful state of mind, Anne Klein will do a reading, a prayer for our country.
O God and God of our ancestors, receive our prayer for this land that we love. Pour out your blessing on this nation and its government. Give those who serve our country appreciations for the Torah's principle of justice and peace. Help them to see your face in every constituent. Cultivate in them and in us awareness that we are all one family, obligated to care for each other with compassion. Banish hatred from our hearts and from the hearts of our elected officials. Help us to make this country a light unto the nations. May it be your will, our God and God of our generations, that this nation be a blessing to all who dwell on earth. Help us to enact the words of your prophets.
Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And let us say, Amen.
And now for a taste of Torah. This week's Torah portion is Chaye Sarah, which literally means the life of Sarah, but it really is about her death and the aftermath. During the course of this Torah portion, there are 3 negotiations. The first, Abraham negotiating for a burial site for Sarah. The second, Abraham wanting to send his servant back to Haran to find a wife for Isaac. And the servant negotiates what happens if he comes back empty-handed, what happens if he can't find an appropriate mate. And the third negotiation is that of the servant himself when he does find the appropriate mate, Rivkah, and he negotiates with her family to bring her back to Canaan. Vahiyu chaye Sarah, 100 shana ve'eschrim shana ve'sheva shanim, shnei chaye Sarah. And this was the life of Sarah. And notice how the Torah declines it. I'll take it very literally. 100 year and 20 year and 7 years, the years of the life of Sarah. So she was 127 years old, which makes Isaac 37 because she was 90 when she gave birth to him. V'tamat Sarah b'kiryat Arba hu Chevron be'eretz Canaan. And Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, and this is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Vayavo Avraham lispo l'Sarah v'livkotah. And Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and weep over her. Vayakam Avraham e'al panei meito, and Abraham rose from the presence of his dead one. Vaydaber el bnei Chet lemor, and he spoke to the children of Chet, literally the Hittites, saying, Ger v'tushav anochi imachem. A sojourner and a dweller am I with you. Tanuli achuzat kever imachem, and grant for me a burial site with you, ve'ekbera matai milfanai, that I may bury my dead in my presence. It's a beautiful story here. He wants to do right by Sarah. He wants to honor her. And of course, kavod ha'emet is something we are supposed to do, honor the dead. So here he is as a stranger in Canaan, and yet he asks if he could buy a location for his wife's burial place. Now this leads to me a very interesting scene. He meets with Ephron the Hittite, and he wants to buy Ephron's property. And Ephron, this really is a cue to Middle Eastern diplomacy. Ephron says, I'll give it to you. And Abraham says, no, let me pay for it. Well, we can understand Abraham's position. If he pays for it, it shows that he has possession of it. If it's merely given to him, then Ephron still could take possession of it back. So Ephron says, what is it to people like you and me? 400 shekels, and that'll be fine. Now, according to my research, 400 shekels is what the average worker earned in 50 years. It's a tremendous amount of money, but Abraham pays it, and he places Sarah in the cave of the Machpelah, which will ultimately be his burial site and the burial site for his son Isaac and eventually Jacob. As I was looking at this Torah portion, I'm trying to look for a new angle to it. And it occurred to me, when a foreigner comes to another country and says, I'm a sojourner here, usually if they want property, they take it. Either they do a land grab or they declare war and they defeat the people who are living there. But not here. Abraham is willing to do a peaceful negotiation. So peaceful, in fact, he overpays for it. This is the first time in the Bible that it shows that somebody called a Hebrew, an Ivri, which Abraham is, he not only buys the cave, but he buys this mysterious grove next to it called the Elene Mamre, the terebinths of Mamre, or the oak trees of Mamre, which must have had a very special meaning to be worth so much money. I now want to talk about the negotiation for Rivkah as a wife for Isaac. The unnamed servant sees Rivkah by the well, realizes she is perfect for his master's son. He gives her gifts. She reports home about this man who gave her gifts. Her brother Lavan goes to greet the stranger, invites him to his home. And the stranger negotiates for a bride for his master's son. The bride is Rivkah. And what is really interesting to me is Rivka gets a vote in the deal. They ask Rivka if she wants to go. Rivka says yes. In a lot of places in the ancient Near East, if somebody saw a beautiful woman and wanted her, he would kidnap her, or she'd be a spoil of war. But not here. The stranger to them, the servant to Abraham, meets with Lavan and his family, negotiates to bring Rivka back to meet Isaac. Rivka is told of it. She agrees and she goes. So that was interesting for me, looking at this, not as it could have been told, with violence and hostages, but instead with friendly negotiations. And that, for me, gives me great hope. If we can learn from this, that we can negotiate through peace and get a win-win result. And isn't that what we would like to do? With that in mind, I want to talk about the biggest winners we have. And those are our veterans, those who served our country proudly, the men and women in uniform. Yes, I'm recording this on Veterans Day. When I was a kid, it was called Armistice Day, but they now call it Veterans Day. And if it weren't for you, we might not be the United States anymore. So we are grateful for your service. We owe you the honor and the respect that you are due. And not only I as the rabbi, but on behalf of all the congregants who wish to share their respect and their gratitude, we thank you for serving our country. And with that, Shabbat Shalom as we continue our service. Let us now do a healing prayer for our friends and relatives for whom you feel a healing prayer would be appropriate, whether they're at home or in a hospital or in hospice care. So let's send healing energy to Joel Shachet, brother of Elise Shachet, the staff dealing with COVID-19, Riderwood residents, especially those in Arbor Ridge. And if you have someone for whom you want a healing prayer said, I'll be quiet for a moment and allow you to say those names. Thank you. Misha berach avoteinu, Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. Misha berach imoteinu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rochel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. That song was written by our own Rabbi Lisa Levine, and thank you for creating something so beautiful, Lisa. We'll continue on page 148 for the Aleinu. If you feel like it, please stand. On the other hand, it is okay to remain seated. You can stand in your heart. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo osanu kigoye haratzod, v'lo samanu kamishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gar aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, page 149, V'nemar, V'hayo Adonai, L'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Recent passings include Vivian Golub, Francis Hoffman, Peter Katch, Alan Cover, and Alan Slutsky. The November yahrzeits include Adam Paperl and Ernest Samuels. If you have loved ones who passed away whom I did not mention, whether you're in the first 7 days, the Shiva, or the first 30 days, the Shloshim, or even the first year, or if November marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary. Please share their names. Zichronam Levracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Mourner's Kaddish, page 154. If you feel like standing, you may do so. If it's easier for you to remain seated, that is also all right. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamelich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechal beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'al me'olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imiru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imiru amen. Osei shalom v'imirumav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imiru amen, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imiru amen. I have so many people to thank for this service. The people at Riderwood who actually put it on the air, our readers, including Ann Klein, Ellen Ollendorf, Amy Greenwood, Teddy Kaplan for playing her beautiful music. Also, we have Kenneth Perlman coming up doing the Kiddush, and Barbara Ronas doing the Motzi. And I just want to thank you all for watching. We'll conclude my part of the service with Adon Olam on page 156, and I feel like doing something in a happier mode. But you know the melody. Adon Olam Asher Moholach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Leit Nasa B'cheftso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Hoya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh V'tifara, v'hu yeh, v'tifara, v'hu echad bein sheni, leham shilo lehachbira, v'li reshit, v'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz, v'hamizra, v'lo ha'oz, v'hamizra, v'hu eli, v'chai goeli, v'tzor hevli v'etzara v'hu nisi umanosli menad kosi v'yom ekra menad kosi v'yom ekra v'yado akid ruchi v'eishan v'ayira v'em ruchi gaviyati Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira. Shabbat shalom, everybody. And if you haven't already, go get a glass of grape juice or wine or a beverage and a piece of challah or bread for the Kiddush and the Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila l'mikrei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivonu v'harta v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min ha'oretz.
Shabbat shalom, everybody, and have a good week.